down that camera and strap in. It's time for a new episode of TogChat Live. Get ready for 60 minutes of wall-to-wall photography, including photo news, tog tips, and image reviews to help you improve your photography. Here's your host, Joe Edelman.
Hey gang, that's me. How y'all doing? It is a Monday. This is episode number 35. Hard to imagine that we have done 35 of these things. I see there are already a load of you here. I am really excited to see you all. Troy, I see that you just snuck in under the wire. Glad that you made it tonight. So listen, gang. First of all, I have to give you all a huge thank you. I hit 75,000 subscribers this weekend. Hard to imagine. This has been like the craziest of wild rides, but it is so great to have all of you along, and I really appreciate the support. This is just the beginning. Lots of cool stuff coming. In fact, hopefully a little bit later this week, I've got some other really cool news that I'm going to be able to share with you guys. Looks like everything is going to fall into place. Had some very good phone conversations today. So fingers crossed, I think everything's going to be really exciting for this next announcement. So first of all, I want to apologize in advance for tonight if I seem a little off my game, because I'm not going to lie, I'm exhausted. Today, I actually had a really fun day. A lot of you know, I've mentioned it, I teach one college course a semester. In fact, actually, this is the last semester that I'm going to be teaching it for a while, and it's not a photography course. It is a course about creativity. The course is called The Art of Seeing, and I've got a class of 20 kids, really awesome kids. They are all sophomores in college, and we use photography, but all of the work is done with these things. So we don't use professional cameras. We don't use fancy DSLRs. They do lots of photography assignments, but it's all done with iPhones. So one of the projects that we're working on right now is, as a group, as multiple groups, they're creating television commercials about products designed for college students. So today was a production day, and I was serving as the cameraman for one of the groups that does not have access to any gear. So it was actually a ton of fun being the cameraman and not making the decisions, but basically just doing the camera work. However, I got to admit, these guys ran me all over campus, and I'm exhausted. So I'll share those with you guys, though, once they're done. It'll be next week. I'll have videos that I can share with all of you. And they were a lot of fun. I've got some really, really talented kids in this class, which, of course, always makes it that much more fun yet. Because most importantly, and this is a lesson that so many of you could learn from, most importantly, they're not afraid to take chances. And that's what makes them so creative. I mean, that's one piece of it, but it allows them to be creative because they take chances, they experiment, they try things. And believe me, some of the stuff they come up with is awesome. It really surprises the heck out of me along the way. So, couple little pieces of business, and I want to dig right into some photo reviews, okay? So obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. If you're new here, it's not obvious. But for the rest of you that have been here before, TogChat is now 3 days a week. So I'm going to be back here again on Wednesday for a Q&A night. And I got to tell you, if you haven't been to one of the Q&A shows yet, they're pretty intense. I mean, we're talking 60 plus minutes of nonstop questions and some really, really good topics. So I hope to see you guys on Wednesday. And then Thursday night, any of you that either have a business or are thinking about starting a business as a photographer, you really need to tune in on Thursday night because Thursday nights are all about marketing. And speaking of marketing, hopefully you see there on the bottom of the screen, you guys will consider following me on social media. You can find me pretty much on all social media, but the ones that I am the most active on are Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Obviously, I have a Patreon program up, which if you are able to provide some support, it's greatly appreciated. If you haven't, please subscribe to the channel. The button's right underneath the video here. Hit that button. And of course, thumbs up and like. Always greatly appreciated. And comments, not just here in the chat window, but also underneath the video. Those are the ones that actually really help. The ones here in the chat video, I love it when people comment. In fact, I see most of you are checking in and letting me know where you're from. Obviously, you're my regulars. So if you haven't been here before, let us know where you're from. It's always fun to see how many people we have from different parts of the world that are here and participating in TogChat, okay? So last pieces of business. Just in case you missed them, this past weekend, Had a couple new videos go up. The first one, the software for shooting tethered, okay? I cover a bunch of different software. A lot of it just kind of very cursively, like, here it is. There's two primary pieces of software that are really the most functional for shooting tethered, doing the kind of work that I do, and that is Adobe Lightroom or Capture One Pro. But underneath that video, when you watch that video on YouTube, in the description section, there's a link to an article on my blog. Once you go to the blog article, you can access the websites of all the different software that's available. And I would encourage you, check out the comments underneath that video, because indeed, there are some people that have kind of very specialized needs for their tethering. And so they've weighed in their circumstances, which software works best for them, and certainly which software works best for different cameras. I know a lot of the prosumer cameras are really kind of limited in what software they'll work with. And in their cases, oftentimes the open source software like Digicam Control works really well for them. So the big moral to tethering, gang, if you're not at a point where you are confident with your camera, if you're not at a point where you are confident with lighting, if you're not at a point where you are confident directing your subject, please don't start tethering. I will feel responsible. You need to master those things first, and then tethering is something that's going to help you take your work to the next level. Certainly, there are specialized reasons for tethering. I know some people use it for astrophotography. Some people, of course, use it for product photography, things like that. But when it comes to shooting people, models, that kind of stuff, please get those three things down to a science, to where they're second nature before you start tethering. And then the other video that went up over the weekend is another last frame video, and I'm really pleased. These last frame videos seem to be really popular with people, and I'm guessing it's because they're really short. But this one's about doing simple casual portraits with one light and one modifier. In the case of most of these shots, Dave Ott, thank you so much, Dave. Greatly, greatly appreciated. For those of you that are watching, let me just switch the screen over here really quick. For those of you who are watching, you see that little bright orange bar there? That's a super chat. Super Chat is a great way for you to ask me a question and make sure that it gets answered. If you've been here before, you know that on Monday night I'm going to review a bunch of photos. Usually I get through 5 or 6 photos tonight, and at the end I will set aside some time, even if I have to go over the hour a little bit, to do a Q&A. If you've got a question that you really want to get an answer to, Super Chat will get me to stop and take care of that question for sure. Or it's just a way to show your thanks. It's greatly appreciated. Dave, thank you so much. Really, really appreciated. So I guess it would be better if I took that video off my face, wouldn't it? There you go. Now you can see me. So anyway, gang, the last frame video is up. The tether video is up. There'll be more videos this week. So let's get into some photo reviews. If you would like to have your photos reviewed here on TogChat, there are a couple ways that you can do that. The easiest way is to join my Facebook group. The reason I say it's the easiest way is because you also have a great learning opportunity in the Facebook group. You can find the link to the Facebook group in the description below the video. If for some reason you're one of those folks that really doesn't like using Facebook, you can submit directly. The link is in the description below this video. It is tog.chat/photo review. And you'll be able to upload your photo, and you'll be asked to answer a couple of simple questions there, and your photo will be in line to be reviewed here on TogChat. Okay, gang, so let's jump in because I got a bunch of pictures for us to look at tonight. So to start with, I've actually got 2 photographs here from the same photographer. And the reason why I'm doing this is they're both from the same photo shoot. They're both very similar settings. He happened to post them actually weeks apart in the Facebook group. But when the second one came up, I realized, you know what, I want to talk about these a little bit because I had hoped to talk about one of them a while ago and unfortunately didn't quite get to it. So as always, you can see the photographer's name, Edward, and where he's from. He's from Auckland, New Zealand, and all the camera stats are up here in the upper left-hand corner of the shot, so I'm not going to read those to you. But I will give you some of the other background that Edward gave me behind the shots. And both of these shots, essentially the same background. Lit with one Canon 600 EXT RT flash. He did these shots a few minutes after sunset. The flash was set up a few degrees to camera left, the model's right. He's using a flash disc as a modifier. Challenges were that he had while shooting, it was a little bit windy. They were on a diving deck. He wanted the hair blowing. And of course, he's trying to work with, the sunset and the nice lighting, etc. So I want to show you both shots first, and then I want to give Edward some feedback here. Kim, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And Dave, thank you again. Sincerely appreciate it. So this was the first shot that we have from Edward. And then here is the second shot of the same young lady. So obviously this one's taken a few minutes later because you can see the ambient light's getting a little bit darker. This one's relying on the strobe a little bit more. So I want to go back to this one, and here's the reason why. Out of the two, Edward, this is the shot that I am drawn to the most. So now that you know that, let's go back to the first one, and let me explain to you why I'm not as big a fan of this. Hopefully, for those of you watching by now, you have paid attention to something other than this young woman's chest, and you've paid a little bit of attention to her face. So one more time, I'm going to click back. We've got the close-up here, and then we've got this shot right here. So the challenge that I'm having here, Edward, is, and I realize, so I want to make sure that we're all being fair before people start picking on Edward's picture here, that this is a bit of a difficult scenario. You've got a young lady that's like on the side of a dock, which means it's probably bouncing and it's moving. The sun's going down, so you've got a very limited time frame to work with. You're working with off-camera flash, and it's breezy and it's windy. So you put all these pieces together. This is a challenging scenario. What I feel is missing in this pair of photographs is personality. Some kind of connection to the model. So in this shot in particular, more so than the other one, and that's why I want to start here. In this shot in particular, she looks really sad. She looks kind of upset. And that bothers me. And the reason it bothers me is because she's very well endowed. And it's like in our face. So the chest almost kind of becomes a little gratuitous since there's nothing going on here. I'm a guy. I like female body parts just like anybody else does. But I got to be honest. I love the challenge of having something very revealing and very seductive in a picture, but yet forcing people to have to work hard to see it. And what I mean is, if you get the personality right, it's going to challenge people. So if she had more of a look of confidence, if she had a little bit more energy going on, then it's kind of like almost like, all right, I dare you, stare at them, okay? Because try and get past it. But in this case, there's almost nothing happening in her face. Like, she has almost no affect in her face. And I really struggle with that. From the standpoint of a fashion type photograph, which, remember now, when we come in this close, it's not really a fashion photo because we're like pretty much eliminating the outfit. But I will tell all of you from a lighting standpoint, this is actually a really great technique. In other words, this young lady's got a good face for doing very sharp, chiseled features. And that's what this direct light does. We get really defined lines, really defined shadows. Edward was very careful not to have that shadow come falling off the nose. So from a lighting standpoint and a light placement standpoint, based on where her face is for this shot, really, really well done. But I really struggle with the personality in this shot. So that's a big part of what drew me to this one. Also, with the light being a little bit softer and with there being a little bit more ambient light, I have to admit, I like the overall tones of this. Where I'm struggling the most here is, again, that she's not, and you guys all know, this young lady's gorgeous and she's very sexy. I really wish she was looking at me, but I get it. That's not everybody's thing. Fine. That being said, though, I really wish she didn't look kind of distraught or frustrated. To me, the way I read that body language, it's more like something's wrong. And that's kind of my problem. I wish her chin was up higher. I wish I could still see her eyes. She doesn't have to look at the camera, but I wish I could still see her eyes. And there's one other thing, and nobody's commented on this yet. So I hate to point this out because it's kind of one of those things like once you see it, at least for me, once I notice this, every time I come back to this picture, it's the first thing that sticks out at me. Because this was shot with a wider lens, and it's not like super wide, but because it was shot with a wider lens, the rails are like massive compared to her. So the problem that I'm having here is if I had more personality happening with her, none of that bothers me. In fact, at that point, then actually what I would be picking on, and this is like really, really picky, I would be picking on the idea that I would tell you, use the clone stamp and take out that little highlight over there because it pulls attention. So that's like a real nitpicky little thing. But where I'm struggling is I don't have that connection with the model. That's my challenge. And remember, connection with the model doesn't mean she's got to be looking at me, but it's just connecting with kind of what's going on, what's the context. This is all very sexy. It's almost kind of very dreamy, very fantasy, like here's this really, gorgeous girl coming out of the water, the wind's blowing, her hair's flying, but she looks sad and she kind of looks a little bit distraught. So, Edward, you'll have some people that will complain about her toes being cut off. Some people complain about the crop here. You know what? My thing here is, and it goes back to the first picture, if you get the personality right, those kind of little details are literally, they go away. I promise you, they go away. You'll always have some people that are so anal because like that's their issue. They've got a thing about feet, whatever, that will pick on things like that. Just like, I'm always going to pick on jewelry, right? So you'll have some people that will pick on the feet thing. But I promise you get the personality right. The railing doesn't matter. The background doesn't matter. That little hotspot doesn't matter because that's what people are going to focus on because obviously this is a very sexy young woman. But that's the thing I really want to see you work on. So, I definitely got to give you some slack in the sense that I realize this is a bit of a tough scenario. You're by the water, it's windy, sun's going down quick, you're in a limited time frame. But really, I want to see you work on that personality. It will make a big difference in your photography, I promise you. Okay? All right, so let's move on here. One more quick reminder for you guys, gang. Please follow me on social media, just in case you're not already. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. By all means, leave a comment. It would be greatly appreciated, okay? All right, so our next up is from Dave. Dave shot this with a Nikon D810. All your specs are there. Dave's in Utah. And this was his first post to my Facebook group, okay? So to give you a little bit of the background, Dave gave me a lot of really, really good image here, okay? A lot of really good details here. He's been shooting for a long time, but professionally as a newspaper photographer. For the last 10 years, he's also been doing a lot of landscapes. So this is really a very new foray into portraiture for him. So he wants to try and make some money doing the portrait stuff, doing senior portraits. So this was one of his first shoots to really start to kind of get his footing with all that. Not bad. So this young lady wanted some senior portraits. He agreed to do them. She wanted kind of an urban look. So he shot these downtown where he lives in Utah. Toward the end of the shoot, the model suggested that she wanted a picture that was really going to accentuate her freckles, okay? Pretty much from the get-go, as soon as she said it, he had this idea in his head, what he wanted to do with the framing and everything else, which is always great. I mean, obviously, anytime an idea hits you really quick like that, it's going to make your job a whole lot easier because you've got a starting point, and a starting point that you're excited about and that you're energized about, which is great. So he's very happy with the image. So is the young lady and her mom. They were both super happy. He shot, obviously, at eye level, very, very, very slightly tilted down. No lights, no flashes, no reflectors. This is all just natural reflected light. He's shooting in the shade. The shot is fairly close to being... Edward's here. Awesome, Edward. So, yeah, and you know what, Edward? the key to, so Edward just left a comment here, just in case you guys can't see it. I really need to work on connecting with a model. Hopefully I'll be able to shoot with her and improve with all your inputs. Edward, I will tell you a couple things. Number one, if you're able to shoot with this young lady again, absolutely do it. Okay. And I want to be clear. She's got a look that is definitely a fashion look. So there's nothing wrong with doing serious, but you've got to be careful with doing that no affect thing. If you're going to do no affect, so no affect means like just no expression, like nothing, okay? My advice would be, if you're going to do no affect, have her look off from the camera. Jose, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. Have her look, for no affect, have her look slightly away from the camera, but keep her eyes in play. In other words, don't have her look down with closed eyes, unless the pose, of course, dictates that. That's fine. I just don't feel when they're coming out of the water, it really dictated that. Otherwise, my challenge to you is, indeed, you need to build a relationship with this young woman. I would love to see her. I have a feeling, and this is just a hunch because I've never met her, right? But I have a feeling she's not the kind of girl that's going to give you a great smile and have it look just really wonderful. She clearly is into that serious fashion thing. My challenge to you is work on getting happy eyes. You get happy eyes, it's going to be a completely different person. And believe me, with her look and her figure, and if you're going to put her in sexy outfits, it's going to rock big time. So, but the key is practice, Edward. It's all about the practice. Okay? So, back here to Dave's shot. Last couple notes. This is pretty much right out of the camera. He did some slight fixes in Lightroom and then into Photoshop for a little bump on the freckles. He didn't like the original catch light in her eyes, which I'm going to show you it in a moment. He posted another photo for us. So he did do some retouching just to tone down the catch light a little bit. So this is another reason why I want to talk about the shot. He made a point here that I always talk about shooting portraits at f4 or f5.6. Actually, I usually say 5.6 or 8. But in this case, he really liked the soft fall off, etc. So I just want to clarify a point. I know I wind up talking about this over and over again, so I'm not going to do the big rant on it tonight. I've never said that you have to shoot a portrait at 5.6 or 8. I shoot portraits at 5.6 or 8 probably 95% of the time. Occasionally, I will shoot wide open. I really do, occasionally. But when I do, I'm going to do exactly what Dave did here, and I'm going to shoot straight on so that I've got both eyes on the same plane, really easy to focus. So when you're going to do wide open shooting in a portrait the right way, knock yourself out. Nothing wrong with that at all. It can be a nice effect, okay? So I don't object to the f4 at all here, or even, I'm sorry, where you shoot at f2.8. I don't object to that at all in this shot because the eyes are in focus, and that's, that's kind of the point. So the other thing that Dave mentioned in his post, and this is what I wanted to get to before I get into a shot, and I quote, "I'm also not super clear on what makes a good portrait. He just knows what he likes. He's just starting to learn the genre of photography, so maybe we all can help him with what he should be focused on. Is he looking at the right things?" So obviously, Dave's been shooting for quite a while, as he explained, but I say obviously because of the way he phrased that question. I just know what I like. My advice to you, Dave, don't listen to anything that any of us tell you about what a good portrait is. Stick with knowing what you like. What you don't want to do is you don't want to turn into some other photographer, ever, at all, because you'll suck at being that other photographer. Be you. You said in the beginning of your post, and I quote, "I want to feel more confident about portraiture before I really start charging, but I'd like to make some more money shooting." So your challenge is that the obstacle that you have in front of you is to learn to do what you do to the best of your ability. And then find people that are dumb enough to pay you for it. That's it. Don't worry about what someone else says is a good portrait, because there's only two people that ultimately matter in the equation. And one of them is not Joe Edelman, and the other one is certainly not a person that's going to be on the internet critiquing your picture. The only two people that matter are you and your subject, since they're paying. So as long as the subject's happy and you're happy, that's a win. It doesn't matter if someone else says, hey, that sucks. It simply doesn't. So that's really, really important, okay? So Dave did provide us with his original image here. I want to show this to you guys, okay? So this is the original file prior to processing. So as Dave mentioned, he accentuated the freckles a little bit. Obviously, he cropped it down. And you can see the catch lights that are here. He wasn't super, super happy with the catch lights, so he wanted to tweak those a little bit. So to go back to his finished file, okay, you can see how we tweaked the catch lights, also brought some of the contrast and the detail up in the freckles, etc. So my feedback to you, Dave, which now, of course, completely contradicts what I told you should be doing, but since you asked for my feedback, I will give it to you. The thing that I am more concerned with, honestly, than most of your choices, since you had this great idea and knew how you wanted the shot to be, what I want to see you do going forward is shoot more frames so that when the young lady says, I really want to do a shot about my freckles, and then you think, cool, I know exactly what I want it to happen, and you start shooting, I would love to see you shoot until you wind up with this in camera. Now, I don't mean the contrast and the catch lights. I mean the crop. Don't waste your pixels. I get it. It's a Nikon D810. It's got pixels to spare, right? But why? You pay all that money. So this, as is, if you did the same post-processing to this shot and didn't crop it, this would be a very nice shot. I wish that her eyes were a little higher in the frame if I'm evaluating this version as a finished image. And I'm sorry, guys, I still got that layer over top. You should have yelled at me there, okay? So, you know, this is perfectly fine. But what I'd like to see you do, and I have a video about that, it's called Work the Shot. You guys have heard me talk about it many, many times. I see a lot of photographers, especially new/young photographers. So, Dave, you're not a new photographer, but you're new to this portraiture stuff. They basically take 4 or 5 frames and they're done. And it's like, cool, I got it. And it's basically all the same pose, same composition. They're just trying for some differences in facial expression. To be perfectly honest with you, that's actually extremely arrogant. It really is, because are you really that good? I don't know many photographers that are that good. In fact, I don't know any photographers that are that good. So you really want to explore the shot. So anytime I go into doing a shot, I have an idea in my head and I shoot that first. But then I go on to try other variations so that hopefully I might go from this version to this version in camera. That would be the goal. So that's honestly, Dave, that's the biggest piece of feedback I've got for you is you've got that D810, you paid a lot of money for those pixels, use them, okay? Because it's not a stretch to think that you would have started here and wound up doing this crop in camera. For me, I don't object to the catch lights at all, but I'm also a guy that finds the vertical catch lights interesting, all that kind of stuff. So we're not going to have a catch light debate because it's just that. We're going to have to agree to disagree, folks. Some people love the interesting catch lights. Other people are committed to the old school version that just should be one little dot in the eye, all that stuff, whatever. If it makes you happy, that's it. There is no right or wrong. Done. My justification is I've never had a subject look at catch lights like are in this picture that we're looking at now and say, ooh, what's up with my eyes? The only people that ever talk about those catch lights are people with cameras, period, okay? So if they bother you and you want to take them out, yeah, that's cool. So, and strictly from a, should we say, standpoint of personal taste, so by no means should you make any changes based on this, Dave. I like the direction you went in with the post. I'd love to see you lighten up just a smidge on the contrast. I completely understand why you wanted to give it a little bit more pop than this. For me, it's just a little bit overdone. In fact, I see somebody here is commenting about, the whites of the eyes being a little overdone. Interestingly enough, Christian, I will disagree with you only because, and obviously you're watching it on a video. So to give it a little slack here, as I'm looking at this, I would actually, and sorry, Dave, you can blame Christian for this now that I've seen it, because I was actually going to completely gloss over this, which would have been bad for me to gloss over it. There's actually quite a few red striations through the eyes, which really should be removed. So I will go along with you, Christian, and say that because of the contrast boost, I think that the eyes look a little hot. And it's also in part because part of what I'm struggling with is the eyelashes are really blocked up. I would really love to see detail in those eyelashes. We can see them at the end. You know, if you watch a mouse, we can see the detail up here. But as soon as we get into here, we lose all the detail in the eyelashes. So if you were to back off on that contrast a little bit, I think that you get the detail back in those eyelashes. You also get some shadow detail back. Still get the contrast, and you're still able to ramp up those freckles. But I would encourage you to go in with the healing tool and the clone stamp and get those red striations, you know, the bloodshot stuff out of the eyes. It's going to look a lot cleaner, a lot prettier. But, you know, really pretty girl. But indeed, at the end of the day, Dave, do your thing. Don't let someone else define for you what a portrait is, because that's how you're going to establish yourself in your market, getting people to come to you instead of the next guy. You've got to find the people that find your style and your work interesting. That's what you're after, okay? So real quick, guys, before we go into the next shot, I forgot to show you something. I posted a picture on Instagram today. So here's an incentive. If you're not following me on social media, you need to go follow me on social media. So I put a picture up. I think it's on Facebook, it's on Instagram, it's in a bunch of them. But it's a picture of a whole bunch of soft boxes hanging on a wall. I need to reorganize the wall because over time I've just kept adding them to the wall. So, you know, you can see in the picture they're a little bit all over the place. Just for the record, the reason I have so many of them is because I hate assembling and disassembling soft boxes. Hate it with a passion, especially in the studio. It's one thing when you're out on location and you need to. But so if you notice, there's like in that picture, there's 4 medium-sized soft boxes. So 2 of them are set up for the flashpoint strobes. 2 of them are set up for speed lights. Up until a year ago, I didn't use speedlights in the studio, but I use speedlights now frequently to show them for YouTube videos. So that's why I have those set up. But a lot of you asked, how was I hanging them on the wall? So really simple, when you buy PhotoFlex, I can't speak for every brand of softbox, but with PhotoFlex softboxes, down on the corners, they have little loops on them. And a lot of different brands have similar loops, at least on one corner, etc. So, yeah, there was actually one beauty dish in the photograph, Daniel, and then I have a second beauty dish. The beauty dish in the photograph is in a case. It's in the upper right-hand side. It's round, so that's the beauty dish. And then I have another beauty dish that's hanging on the wall, but in a different part of the studio, so it's not there. And the same deal. One beauty dish is for the flash points. One beauty dish is for the Luma Pro strobes. So anyway, all I did was I put little metal hooks in the wall, little open-ended hooks, like almost like big teacup holders. So they're you know, you go to like Home Depot or hardware store, so they're bigger than a teacup holder, but like a larger version of that. And then you get this stuff, it's called parachute cord. You can order it on Amazon, just like my red tape. You guys always ask me about my red stripes, so, you know, I have red cord. So this is just a long piece of it that I had, so I'm going to do a big version. So basically, in the loop that is on the softbox, I take the parachute cord and kind of hook it that way. Real simple. All right. And then at the other end of the cord, just tie off a knot. So you've got a knot there, and you got the loop on the softbox there, and obviously it'd be much shorter, and then that just hangs. If these straight ends bother you, you can do a couple of things. You can, because the minute you cut this cord with a scissor, these ends will fray, and that's just the nature of the cord. You can either tape them off, or if you're a bit of a pyromaniac, take a cigarette lighter and twist them together, and then you can melt them together, and then they'll like fuse together. Obviously, it goes without saying. Be a little careful doing that, but basically that's all it is. It's parachute cord. This stuff works great. This stuff is also good exactly the same way that I just showed you to tie it and everything. Is also really good if you have camera bags with zippers and you want to be able to grab the zippers easier, that kind of stuff. Put these things on the zippers, and it's really easy to find the zipper pulls to grab. So it's simply parachute cord. You can get it on Amazon.com. Okay? All right. Let's move on here. Our next picture comes to us from Leslie St. John in Barbados. Okay, so all your stats are there. This is a Nikon night, by the way. He found this young lady via Model Mayhem. She was, I guess, traveling to Barbados, and so she reached out, and he set this up as a TFP shoot. Also had a makeup artist along who doubled as an assistant. And if you guys have watched my videos on working with a makeup artist, I talk about the idea that makeup artists make great assistants during a shoot. He shot this as he was getting close to the end of the shoot. Sun was beginning to set. Lighting was entirely natural light with a white reflector on camera left. So we can see sunlight is on camera right and the reflector on camera left. Overall, he's happy with the image. He does think that maybe the right-hand strap, so that's on her left, camera right, in the shot, might have been stronger if it was in the image instead of kind of running out of the image, as you see here. And then he's also looking for feedback if we think that this would have been better with her mouth closed. Okay, so let's talk about the things that he specifically asked about here. So in terms of the strap, Leslie, I think that it doesn't bother me at all, mainly because what you have done here is you've done a good job of getting this young lady's eyes to really be the strong focus of the shot. Now, that being said, I really believe they could have been made stronger. John, I'm sorry, I hate to interrupt. John, please don't get me in trouble with your wife. I saw that comment. John says he's going to use my picture to get approval from his wife to buy more softboxes. No. If she calls me, I will deny it. I promise. So back to Leslie's picture here. I don't object to shots looking way down on models. I do that too. But here's my issue with this, Leslie, and I promise you this will make a huge difference. And I think most of you will be able to imagine this, but I encourage you, the next time you've got a model in front of your camera, even if you're not planning to do a shoot down, try this. Look at the space between her bottom lip and her chin. She's got almost no chin. That is in part because of the camera angle. So a lot of people, if you really start to pay attention to faces, and for those of you guys that want to photograph people, I hate to tell you, you guys hear me talk all the time about how you don't have to learn posing. In fact, you hear me talk about how you probably shouldn't learn posing, which of course is contrary to what 90% of the rest of the photographers in the world teach. Learn body language. But to learn body language, that also means you have to learn some anatomy. You have to pay attention to people. So if you pay close attention to people, there's some things that you'll notice. Some people have a lot more space from the lip to the chin than others. Some people have a very thin space. Some people have a very broad space. Okay? Some people have a lot of depth between the neck and the end of the chin. Some people have very little. So that being said, this young lady clearly has a very short space between the lip and the chin. By shooting down on her, and she's only lifted her chin a little. So be really careful here, because when you look at the shot close, and I want you all to look for it so you can see it, at first pass, you get the impression that she's looking up. She's not looking up. She's looking up and lifted the chin ever so slightly, but not much. In fact, if this young lady would have looked up any higher, she would have gotten wrinkles on her forehead, which wrinkles are always bad, okay? So what I would encourage you to do, Leslie, when you're doing a shot like this is two things. The first one is when you want to do that down look, number one, have the young lady push her chin forward ever so slightly. And you got to see, I'm just barely, I don't mean like a big gooseneck. I'm just barely pushing forward and then lift up to you. By doing that, you're going to get the depth back because she doesn't have a lot to begin with. So, like if you look at the proportions of this young woman's face, she's got a huge forehead compared to no chin. Now, in reality, she does have a bigger forehead than a chin, but that doesn't mean it makes for great balance. So we can create that balance by making sure that we get the face a little bit more square to the camera. So you can still do looking down, you can still get the eyes looking up, but get the chin coming out and up to the camera a little bit more. And I promise you guys, it makes huge, huge difference. Beyond that, you know, I love what you've got with the lighting. Again, for me, if I'm going at it from kind of an OCD perspective, yes, having the other strap in would be great. It ultimately does not bother me because the girl's very pretty. I love the freckles. Freckles are clearly a theme tonight. If I'm being really, really picky from an exposure standpoint, I wish that there was just ever so slight bit more detail on the side of her face here, because you're right on the cusp of losing the detail. But please don't think that it's bad because of that. Again, I just said, if I'm being really picky, that's something that I would, go after. And then if you're using the shot for your portfolio, Leslie, I would encourage you to go back into Photoshop, build up her upper lip a little bit, get a little bit more volume out of the upper lip, that really thin upper lip. That's the problem with the mouth. I don't mind her mouth being open. In fact, I'd rather have her mouth open. An open mouth is very sexy. There's chapters in body language that you can learn about open mouths. And yes, you can take your mind there because that's a lot of where it comes from. So open mouths can be very strong. So the challenge, though, is you want nice lips to go with it. So she's got a little bit of a thin upper lip. So at least for your version, you may not be able to do it for hers if she's going to go into a modeling agency, but for your version, I would build that upper lip a little bit. I think that it would definitely have a positive impact on your shot. Okay? All right. Next up for the evening, we have a shot here from Braulio. This is coming to us from Argentina. So all your camera stats are there. He shot this with one flash and one white umbrella on camera right. Flash was set to about 1/8 power. It's a Yamaha 565. He was trying to plan the shoot with a model. They had 3 outfit changes they did. The subject of his shot is a former opera singer who now sings tango music. Okay, so apparently kind of the traditional garb for this genre of singer is exactly what you see here. It's kind of the suit with the big cuffs and the pockets square, all that kind of stuff. He's happy with the way the shot came out, but he's also not happy with the way the shot came out. So on the yes side, he planned everything out and it worked, and he's using it for his new album. But on the no side, he's concerned that it's maybe too dark. If he would shoot it again, he would possibly try to change his face direction a little bit and then lower the flash position and maybe open up his composition a little bit. Okay, so Braulio, I think you've got some very good observations on your shot there. I will admit that for me, I would love to see this just a little bit brighter. I think it becomes a lot stronger. Now, certainly, we would want to do a little bit of balancing. If we bring it up even just a little bit that I've brought it up here, you see we got a bit of a hot spot on the forehead compared to the rest of the face. So we're going to want to, balance that out a little bit. Frequently, gang, the reason that happens, that hot spot, it's not because of makeup. It's not because the guy was sweaty or anything like that. It's actually because of the way you set your lights. What a lot of you do is, here's your portrait subject, and you set your light high and you tilt it forward. So that means the light is now closer to the forehead than it is to the chin. And that's enough difference. That 8 to 10 inches is enough of a difference. If you've got your light and your modifier close, it will cause a variation in exposure, which causes a variation in skin tone. So the easiest way to do it is not to angle the light, but bring it back, period. Okay? And indeed, as Braulio thought, come down just a little bit lower and it'll work fine. So, I'm not going to worry about the fact that the forehead's a little bit brighter at this point. I would definitely lighten the image. And part of the gain here by lightening the image, I hope you all noticed it. Let me go back to 0 on this. If we lighten the image, we also get a little bit of detail in the suit, which I think is very, very helpful. So, by bringing that up, I was up about 0.8, I think, before, yeah. So we get just a hint of the detail in the suit, which I think is really good. I don't need to see the whole suit. It's a black suit. I don't need to see the whole suit. I don't need all the detail, but I want just a hint of the detail, because that also gives me a hint of his size. And I will tell you, you mentioned about possibly opening the frame up a little bit. So if I go back to 0 again, the composition is a little awkward for me, meaning his eyes start center to right and he's looking right. So all of this negative space becomes completely pointless over here. And I don't mean that to say that like the frame should end right where my mouse is here, but I definitely would like to see more space on this side, maybe see all the pocket square and a little less space on this side. If I open things up a little bit. Whoa, let's try that. We don't need 80. Let's bring that back down again. Sorry. One of these days I'll learn how to type, right? There we go. So let's bring this back up to 8, okay? There we go. So as I open it up a little bit, because I've got some detail over here now, and I've got a little bit of ear, it's actually not nearly as objectionable from a compositional standpoint. I still would rather see it move a little bit, but it doesn't bother me nearly as much. So I do think that making it a little bit lighter, definitely the way to go. We might want to pull a little bit of orange out of him. I think, that helps a little bit. Somebody made a comment about the fingernail. The thing with the fingernail, and so I'm going to make some assumptions here. A lot of performers will at least wear a clear coat or maybe even like a nude coat on their fingernails. So he may have his fingernails done, in which case that's kind of part of who he is, etc. I don't mind the hand. I don't mind the posturing. I don't mind the cuff. I think that you did, a very good job with this, Braulio. I just would love to see you lighten it up. And when you lighten it up, maybe take just a tiny bit of orange out of the shot. I think that's definitely going to be a big improvement for you. Okay? All right. Next up, we've got a shot. This was a first post for a brand new member of my group this last week. This is Roberto from Vineland, New Jersey. So Roberto's not that far away from me. All of your camera stats are up there in the top left of the frame. So Roberto has literally just been shooting for a couple of months. I fell in love with photography a couple months ago. He got his first DSLR a couple weeks ago. So he's been learning a lot about shooting people, and his favorite subject is his daughter, as we see in this picture. So up to this point, he's mainly been shooting landscapes, but he wanted to do a picture. So he really had this shot in his head when he set out to do it. He wanted to photograph his daughter with the sun behind her, but he didn't want the sun in the shot. He wanted the foliage to be in the background with the greens and all the other colors. He shot it at f1.8 to get the really shallow depth of field, but still be able to see the colors behind her. So he had her sit down on a tree stump so that he could get the shot from a lower angle. He shot at ISO 100, as you can see. His daughter has beautiful big eyes. I think that's an understatement. He had her look up at the tree, which of course does give you a brilliant reflection from the sky. He found that the ambient light falling in the foliage in the background really helps separate it from the background, which I would agree it completely does. And then the choice of the jacket color also helped bring some color into the shot. So he did his editing in Lightroom and Analog Effects Pro to balance the exposure on her face and to bring out the vibrancy and the colors and the clarity in the overall shot. He feels like the picture that he had in mind came to fruition, but if he had it to do over again, he would add a reflector at a 45-degree angle in front of her to fill in the shadows behind her ear and under her cheekbones. So kind of down in here and down here. Another option would be to use his Godox Speedlight as a fill to brighten her up and make her more the focus of the picture. So, Roberto, first of all, welcome to the dark side with your new DSLR. You are very, very lucky to have a gorgeous young subject like this to work with. Your comments about, I'm going to start at the end. Your comments about using the reflector or using the strobe. My gut response when I hear that is, oh my God, no, don't do that, please. Okay? First of all, she's gorgeous. The fact that you had a plan with your bokeh and why you wanted the bokeh makes the bokeh good in this case. Roberto, I know you're known to my Facebook group, and so when you get to see this, you'll find out over time that I am constantly giving people a hard time about shooting an f1.8 and worrying about the bokeh and all that kind of stuff. And I do it because they do it for the wrong reasons. They just want cool bokeh. And they shoot at f1.8 and then they create pictures where it looks really bad because one of the eyes is out of focus. So the fact that you're shooting her profile, it doesn't matter that the eyelashes and the backside are a little bit soft. And the fact that the bokeh is really cool only adds to the shot because you used it to achieve a desired result. In other words, it wasn't about the bokeh. The shot is still all about the little girl. So, I would have to tell you that I really think you nailed it. The reason why I react to the strobe and the reflector, the minute you introduce that strobe and that reflector with this young little girl, you're going to completely change the dynamic that you have. one of the luxuries that you have if you go out and you photograph her right now with just a camera and a lens is that you can create special time with daddy. And she's going to have fun. And that's exactly what you want to happen. As she gets a little bit older and you're able to reason with her more, then it's going to be a lot easier to make a production out of things because you can always bribe them. It's like, okay, look, you're going to sit here for this until daddy's done, and then I'll take you to Toys R Us or I'll take you to get ice cream, right? So believe me, I have a 2.5-year-old grandson, and my daughter-in-law, who I love dearly, routinely prods me because I don't take more studio pictures of my grandson. And on one hand, I really, really want to. In fact, for the first several months of his life, I pretty much had a camera in my hand anytime I was within 6 feet of him, and all I did was take pictures. And then I stopped. Once he started to get really mobile, and especially by the time he was walking in that, I will use my iPhone frequently to take pictures of him, but I've taken very few pictures with a DSLR since he's been about probably 1 3/4. And that's because I don't want to be the grandpa that is always annoying the crap out of him with a camera. I want to have a relationship with him. I want to get to know him. I want him to have fun with me. And indeed, in about another 1.5 years, I'm going to be able to bribe the crap out of the kid, and he'll do whatever I want him to do for a picture. And then I'll do all kind of crazy studio stuff. So, I think that the fact that you were able to kind of solve this problem, wanting this shot with your daughter, wanting the separation from the background, the colors, and all that kind of stuff, really wanting the eyes to pop, man, seriously, congratulations. But I would aggressively encourage you, keep it simple, stupid on the equipment now, because a big part of what you're doing is you're actually creating these real moments between you and your daughter. And so and we see that in this picture. I mean, this is a shot. Anybody that's ever photographed a young child this small realizes that frequently you have to prod to make things happen. So, but at the same time, this is a shot that reflects a moment, and it's a real moment. It's a moment between you and your daughter. You bring the flash out, you bring the reflectors out, then you've got this whole other dynamic that comes into play. And believe me, she's going to lose attention very, very quickly, and she's going to lose patience very, very quickly at that point. As long as you're making your shoot special time with daddy, man, you're gonna get lots of really cool stuff like that. So, very, very good job. I think you did a great job with this. Okay, all right. Next up, we're going to do this shot, and then I'll get a couple questions in here for you guys. I see that there's a few that are waiting for me in the queue here. So if you have some questions, now's the time to go ahead and start typing those in, okay? So this shot comes to us from Michael Mejos in Washington State. All your specs are up at the top there, okay? And now that I just lost all of his stuff, there it is, okay. So Michael gave me a lot of really good detail behind the shot, so I'm going to go through it kind of quick. So he met this young lady through his wife because she wanted some new looks for her modeling portfolio. They discussed in advance that they wanted them to be kind of a lifestyle portrait mixed with a catalog look, which, Michael, just for the record, there really is no such thing in a modeling portfolio. That should be two separate things. But he wasn't sure how to incorporate that look, but he thinks it came through. And I would agree. I think it kind of came through. He lit this with an Edelman chrome, an ELB 400 flash. The main light was shot through a 41-inch umbrella that is 1.5 feet above camera axis, with the center of the umbrella pointed directly at her face. Okay, 3 white reflectors were set up on camera left, right, and at the bottom. So basically on both sides and underneath her. He was kind of thinking of like making a box concept around her as opposed to doing like the clamshell look. And then she's positioned pretty much right in front of a white wall. Obstacles that he encountered. The model, very nervous. She had a look in every pose for several shots that were stiff, and her lips were closed and slightly pressed down. So we stopped for a moment, and he just talked to her about what was coming out of the camera and how she could be more comfortable and relaxed. Then he talked about her day and what she was up to without taking a shot. Once she opened up with her personality, she felt more comfortable, but he was sad because there were a lot of great looks that he saw, that he wanted to press the shutter, but he didn't want to be the jerk that lied to her and lose that trust that he had gained with her while talking to her. Michael, I'm going to come back and talk about that. So bravo, though, before I go on with the rest of your comments, bravo for being aware that your model's nervous. Bravo for being aware that she's pursing her lips. because she's nervous, because that's never going to look good. So very, very good. When the conversation was over, he resumed shooting with a little bit of direction, and this is what he got. So he's concerned that I'm going to have an issue with the back of her hand and the thumb. His post-processing, the original picture was modified slightly in Lightroom and edited. The majority of the editing was done in Photoshop. He used Liquify with the face to shorten the width of her face a little bit, and he wanted, because he'd also never used it before, a couple curves layers on the hair, skin tone, all that stuff. What he would do different. Okay. He feels that he chose the wrong clothes for the shot because the white shirt blended with the white wall so much that he had to use Photoshop to darken the wall to separate them. Also, the bare midriff forced his eyes to look down there instead of the model's face. And if his eyes do that, then that means other eyes will do that as well. Very good. The fingernail on her thumb and the bracelet is slightly distracting. He should have removed the bracelet and asked for neutral fingernail colors. And then last but not least, he asks the question, when is it or is it not at all okay to add color to the fingernails and jewelry to portraits? The hair was messy around the shoulders, and if he was more observant, that could have been cleaned up a little bit. So, Michael, the upside is you posted your shot. You gave me a ton of really, really great information, so thank you. But the best part is you pretty much did the evaluation yourself. So that's a win. I agree with pretty much all of your comments. If I break it down from the standpoint of outfit, I want to leave that taking the picture and being the jerk thing for last. As far as the outfit goes, the scarf, way too busy. Jewelry's got to go. The fingernail's not horrible. Ideally, it should be clear coat or French tipped. Yes, but not horrible. And the back of the hand with the thumb there, I actually don't mind it. It could be a lot worse. Let's put it that way. What I would like to see you do in post-processing, though, take out the veins in the back of this hand. Don't make the hand so smooth there's no texture, but take out the dark veins. I completely agree with you about the belly. Crop shirts are sexy, but they're not sexy when they steal attention away from the intended purpose of the shot. Now, you mentioned about having to darken the background because the shirt and the background were kind of blending together. Honestly, Michael, I have a feeling that's an exposure thing because the way you're describing your lighting, there's no reason in the world why you shouldn't have been able to have separation of the white shirt from the white wall because you're not lighting the white wall. So even though it looks like she's probably only about 6 to 8 inches in front of that white wall, that's enough separation to create separation. Probably what would have helped. So number one, I'm confident it's an exposure matter. But if you really want to make sure you have that separation, understand that if you take those two side reflectors away, then you're going to get a little bit of light fall off on the side of her arms, and that will help separate a little bit. Also understand that those two side reflectors, they're probably doing more harm than good as far as getting light to the background, okay? So, I don't disagree with any of your comments. I think you're right on the money. If I'm being super, super nitpicky, some other things that you should remove from the shot, remove the belt loop. That's kind of one of those things. I'm not going to mess with that during the shoot. If I happen to see it, it's there. It is what it is. It's not like I can cut it off her pants. I'm not going to do that. But I would take it out after the fact. Super picky, but it's a small distraction. Since I know you were working on some of the hair, I'm okay with this stuff. I mean, ideally, I would rather it be cleaner. But if I'm going to take anything out, take this hair out here that's on the back of the shoulder. What concerns me more with where you're at with your lighting and your post-production is the shine. It's not horrible. You're right on the border of her cheeks being shiny. So what I would encourage you to do, just to try it out, because ultimately, I think we're all in the same place here. This is close, but it's a miss. You're going to shoot this again. Since it's a friend of your wife, you need to get this young lady back in front of the camera again because the next time she knows you, you know her, you've got a little bit more of a relationship, and I'm going to talk to you about what to do about that smile thing. But get her back in front of your camera again. That being said, there is a video on my YouTube channel about how to fix shiny skin in both Lightroom and Photoshop. Go look it up. It's about a year old, but I promise you, try it. You don't have to like it. I'm not saying it's the perfect solution for this, and I'm not saying that those cheeks are horrible. I'm just saying it would be a really good thing for you to learn how to do. Super, super simple technique. Try it out just to get that experience. Now, let me go back to your comments, though, about do you be that jerk that loses her trust because you took the picture while she was talking. Michael, I'm that jerk. At the end of the day, you're not going to lose their trust over that. You're simply not. And here's why. Why is she standing in front of your camera? She wants a really good picture. I would actually argue with you that by showing her that she was looking nervous, by pressing her lips, you actually made your job tougher. Because at that point, you've shown her bad pictures of herself. Deandra Elliott, welcome. First timer. Glad to see you. So, that's the one thing, Michael, that I wouldn't do. I would not show her the frames to say, hey, listen, everything looks good, but you look a little nervous and your lips are pressed. Because now you've basically said, obviously you weren't saying it like this, but now you've basically said, you suck, you're nervous, you're ruining my pictures. What are we going to do about it? In her mind, that's what's happening. Because you showed her pictures of herself that don't look as good as she wants them to look. So now you've actually added to her nerves. So the fact that you took time and you kind of, chilled, talked with her for a while, got her relaxed, that's very, very good. But literally, what I would have done is in the middle of the talking, if you were seeing expressions that look really good, because here's the thing. If you try to shoot her while she's talking, the odds of you getting a great picture are really, really slim. But if you're seeing that she's relaxing and you think there might be something there, shoot it. And when you kind of startle her, you don't show her the picture. Whatever you do, even if it's amazing, do not show her the picture because it's not going to be amazing. But do the picture, look at the back of the camera and say, oh, now see that? You weren't even thinking about it, and that was incredible. So now put the camera back down again and talk a little bit more and say, see, if we just get you to chill out a little bit, it's going to be awesome. Patrick in Hellertown, right down the road. How you doing? So by no means, was it bad what you did, Michael? And your heart was in the right place. But that's not the kind of trust thing that you need to worry about. That's the kind of trust thing you can have some fun with and use it to your advantage. But the only thing I will take you to task for is don't show them the previews to try and explain how their nerves and the pressed lips look bad. Because unfortunately, at that point, you've shown them bad pictures of themselves. That's going to work against you. Okay? All right, gang. So I've got one question here. We're a few minutes over time, but I'll go a few minutes over time. I usually do anyway, right? So Emmanuel asked, he's been thinking about joining PPA. Any thoughts about it? Are there any alternatives to it? So Emmanuel, if you're still here, let me know what state you're in. But let me talk about PPA in general. And the answer is, oh, hell yeah. PPA is a great organization. So for those of you that are not familiar with PPA or have never heard of PPA before, PPA is the Professional Photographers of America. And it is kind of an overarching group that has local organizations throughout the country and actually other different parts of the world. One of the great things about joining PPA is that as part of your paid membership, and I want to say it's somewhere between $200 and $300 a year, and I should know off the top of my head, I don't. But if you guys go back a couple videos, I did a video about those different organizations. Is it worth going to photo conventions? And I talk about PPA and WPPI and all those. So the price is in that video, or you can simply go to their website and look it up. But when you join PPA, you get equipment insurance, like $15,000 worth of equipment insurance as part of your membership. Plus, they have great legal services, great educational tools. Massachusetts, Emmanuel? Absolutely. In fact, Emmanuel, if you're in Massachusetts, go to the website necccc.org. necccc.org. If you have never been to their annual photo conference in July, Emmanuel, I expect to see you there this July. I believe it's the second weekend in July, like 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, something like that. I'll be speaking. Anyway, PPA. Yes, Massachusetts has a great PPA local organization. Check them out. I highly recommend them. If nothing else, the equipment insurance makes it worth doing the membership. Totally does. If you like doing photographic competitions, if you would like to be certified, become a master photographer, all that kind of stuff, that's all PPA. Great organization, but I'm a very, very big fan. I don't participate in all the nitty gritty stuff. I just don't have the time, and I've never been a fan of print competitions and that kind of thing. But I will tell you, it varies from state to state. So if you're at all concerned, do a little bit of research into how good your local organization is. Now, I'll get myself in big trouble here, but I speak the truth. I'm in Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania organization for PPA, not that great. So I am a PPA member. The Pennsylvania organization literally has never reached out to me in all these years, and I live in the state of Pennsylvania. So, but I've done talks at numerous PPA organizations. Probably one of my favorite, hate to make favorites, but North Carolina, Professional Photographers in North Carolina, awesome group. They put on an event every August called the Carolina Photo Expo that is just outstanding, but highly recommend PPA. I really do. Deandra, so what do you do when you're tethering? Take pictures. I'm not sure exactly what your question is there. Give me a little bit more detail when, are you, if you've kind of got a specific question, okay? David Johnson, when can it help to show a tethered shot to the subject, or is it always a no? So, David, I've talked about this before, and I don't mind talking about it again, but it's one of those subjects that people are going to line up on two sides of the fence, and they will rarely see the middle. For me, I almost never show a preview to a subject, with the exception being if I have the subject doing something that requires some kind of, Deandra, the model doesn't have to see the image while you're tethering. Great. So this is the same as what we're talking about here for David. Perfect. I can answer both at the same time. The model doesn't need to see the image while you're tethering. That's not why you tether. So let's be clear, gang. There's two reasons for tethering. Two. For you, the photographer, it's quality control. That's the reason for tethering. Quality control, period. It allows you to view large images, and it allows you to do your raw processing right then and there while you're shooting so that there are no surprises later. That's why you tether, first and foremost. The second reason only applies if you have a client. Models are not the client, ever. Even if they're paying you, but we all know models don't pay squat these days, and they shouldn't. They'd be stupid to pay. But the point is, the model's not the client. If you have a client that's hiring you to take a set of pictures and they want to be able to see the shots coming together, that's the second reason for tethering. Beyond that, you don't tether for the model. It is not for the model's benefit. Listen, gang, we live in the Instagram selfie world. Every girl is used to going click, click, click and seeing the pictures 2 seconds later. Too goddamn bad. Not in my studio. They hire me because of my expertise. Their job is to model. My job is to take pictures. I'm not going to sit there and admire them while they're standing in front of me. I want to take pictures. And believe me, I'm that tough about it. And I lay it down just like that. It's like, look, do you want to sit here and do you want to look at pictures? Or do you want to take more pictures? Let's take more pictures. The only time I'm going to show a model pictures during a shoot is if I've got her doing some kind of crazy jump or a hair flip, or if I'm working with a dancer and I'm doing some kind of choreography and I need them to see how it's showing up, then I'm going to show them. But then, the key word in that whole sentence was dancer. I'm working with someone that has body control, so they can see what they're doing in the shot and they can fix it for me, okay? Other than that, I'm absolutely not going to show it to them at all. And I've talked about this before. There's one very occasional exception where I will go ahead and show a model a preview. So for David and Deandra, since you are asking this question, let me explain the whole bit about why you don't. And if you guys have ever shown your models images during a shoot, you've probably experienced this. And in fact, not probably, you've experienced it, but I just hope you were smart enough to realize it, okay? You show the girl the picture, and that's the moment you realize that you're working with a girl who has low self-esteem, meaning she's the most beautiful thing you've ever freaking seen, but she thinks she's ugly. So you show her a picture, and her response is, You've now lost that model for the whole shoot. You've lost her confidence because she doesn't like what she's seeing. You're screwed. So why would you do that? You don't do that. You're only going to show a model something if you're trying to accomplish something where you need their help, and showing them is actually going to benefit you. but you don't show them a picture just to satisfy their damn curiosity. They've got a job to do. I've got a job to do. Do your job. That's it. Done. Don't show them the picture, because otherwise you've lost their confidence in you. So that is entirely the whole reason why. There are people that will argue with me over that until the cows come home, and that's fine. Knock themselves out. They can do their thing. But, bottom line is, I'm the photographer. They're the model. They need to go model. I need to be a photographer. That's it. That tethering is there for me. It's quality control. That's what it's all about. That's why I'm using it. And if I have a client, then it's there for the client. Okay? All right, gang. So listen, I saw also there were some really nice comments in here about my channel and all that stuff. Thank you guys so much. I sincerely, hitting 75,000, I really appreciate the support. You guys were just absolutely awesome. So I will be back here again Wednesday night for another TogChat. Kim, right now I do private teaching via either Skype or Google Hangout, or in person in my studio. I do one-on-one, one-day workshops. As far as workshops and that kind of stuff, when I'm hired, I go teach them. But if you go to my website, there is a link that says Learn from Joe, and it will tell you about my private workshops or doing my online consultations. All that information is there. Yes, Adam Wolf, even if they ask for a quick glance, no pictures. Done. Guys, the models come to you because you're the photographer. So be the damn photographer. Be confident. Okay? If they want to see the pictures, say, hey, we'll look at the pictures when we're done. Right now, you're made up. You look great. I'm ready to take pictures. Let's take pictures. Done. Let them see the pictures at the end of the day. You let the model see the pictures during the shoot. You run the risk of her not looking at the pictures, and then you have completely blown your shoot because they've lost their confidence in you. That's the challenge. Okay, gang? So, please, Wednesday night, Q&A night. Hope to see you all. Q&A nights have been really cool so far, and then I'll be back Thursday with another marketing talk chat. Some more videos coming up for you guys this weekend. So, as always, gang, I really do appreciate your support. Please make sure you guys get out there and take lots of pictures. Also, by the way, people have been asking about my Tog Swag stuff. It's all online now at TogSwag.com. The link is in the description below. And it sounds like a lot of you are working with models. So my advice, check out this website, modelingtip.com. Now, this website is geared towards people that are modeling professionally. But if you want to be able to do portfolio work with models and help them out, you'll find a lot of really, really good information there. Also on modelingtip.com, there is 2 directories. One, it's a directory of all the modeling agencies, legitimate modeling agencies in the United States, and there is a directory of makeup artists in all 50 states in the United States. So if you're looking for a good makeup artist, it's a good place to start, looking for someone. Okay? So, listen, guys, thank you very much. You know the drill. Listen close.
Thanks for watching another live episode of TogChat. Now go and pick up that camera and shoot something, because your best shot, it's your next shot. So keep learning, keep thinking, and keep shooting. Adios.